Hey there everybody, Tamer Chamma here of RotoExperts.com with yet another start-sit video at the running back position. This time, of course, we're taking a look at Week 7. And the one and only start I have for you this week is Moreno. He's going to be going up against the Oakland Raiders at home in Week 7. And last week, Moreno was able to get some of the kinks, some of the rust out from the previous 3 games that he had missed due to a hamstring injury. Last week he had 12 carries for 48 yards. And now that he has that rust out, I think he's primed for a big week, and he definitely has the opponent to do it against, and that's the Oakland Raiders. As I've detailed before in previous start-sit videos, the Raiders' run defense is just not very good. At this point in the season, they're still not doing well at all. 150 yards per game allowed on the ground, 6 touchdowns allowed, and they're also giving up 5 yards per carry. Just really bad numbers across the board. That should allow Moreno to break 80 yards, get even over 100 yards, because I see him getting 15 to 20 carries this week now that he's got the rust out and he's back in prime form after missing those 3 games. He's also, of course, going to get involved in the passing game as well, and because he's going to get the carries and he's not going up against a very good run defense, he'll, of course, have a chance at least 1 touchdown and maybe even multiple touchdowns. I would look at him as a running back 1 in deeper leagues this week and a running back 2 in all other leagues. And let's move over now to the 2 sits. The first sit I have for you is kind of a surprising one. It's Ahmad Bradshaw. He's going to be going up against the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas. And right now, Ahmad Bradshaw is 3rd in the NFL in rushing yards, so it's surprising that he's on the sit list for this week. But if you really kind of dig deep with him, there's a lot of negatives, a lot of red flags for him as a fantasy football player at this point. And the biggest one is the fact that he's not getting goal line touches anymore. Those are mainly going now to Brandon Jacobs. That really hurts his ability to score touchdowns because he's really not a guy that can break long runs and score from deep out. He doesn't have breakaway speed. He's a shifty back, but he's not really a guy that can outrun defensive backs, outrun safeties a la Adrian Peterson or a Chris Johnson. He just doesn't have that ability. So he's going to have a tough time finding the end zone. He's also not going to see a ton of carries. He's only seeing 18 carries a game right now, and I think it's going to start shifting down a little bit given the fact that Jacobs is playing better, and also that the smaller Bradshaw, who hasn't had a lot of touches in a single season as a NFL player, I think the Giants are going to look to limit his touches as we go down the stretch of the season and use Jacobs more. So look for him to be around 15 carries in this game against the Dallas Cowboys. He also doesn't get really involved in the passing game as well. So really a lot of red flags for Bradshaw outside of the yardage, and that yardage will be limited a little bit this week given the reduction in carries that I see, and also the fact that he's going up against a pretty good run defense in the Cowboys' run defense. They're only allowing 100 yards per game on the ground. At most this week, I would look at Bradshaw as a flex guy in all leagues, and more likely in deeper leagues. The other sit I have for you is really an entire backfield, and that's the Tampa Bay backfield. It's just a disaster right now. I don't understand how Cadillac Williams is still getting the majority of the carries. I understand he's very good at picking up the blitz, which the word out of Tampa camp is that that's really the reason he's still getting the majority of the carries, because he's so much better than those other guys at picking up the blitz. But he's averaging 2.5 yards per carry on the ground, just awful. And as long as he's getting the majority of the carries, that limits the ability of anybody else to have a big fantasy impact, and that includes, of course, LeGarrette Blount, who has shown some flashes but really never gets the ball, and Ernest Graham, who's had some flashes as well but really isn't getting the ball. So at this point, as long as Cadillac Williams is getting the majority of the carries, you really want to just avoid that entire backfield, especially this week. They're going up against a pretty good Ram run defense. So you just don't want to start him. You may not even want to own him at this point unless something breaks where Cadillac Williams isn't the feature back in that offense anymore. For more fantasy football, definitely check out our exclusive Edge package, now available at a reduced price on RotoExperts.com. You can also check us out on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @RotoExperts. My personal Twitter handle is @RotoExperts_TC. Later in the week, we're going to have wide receiver start sits as well as quarterback start sits.